It's entirely possible, perhaps even likely, that in a few weeks or in a few months, we won't really know or even care anymore about who was to blame for the shutdown that might be happening shortly after we are live right now. But you never know what's actually going to pick up steam in the media. I mean, I would have predicted that finding out that a president had paid $130,000 to silence an adult film star about their affair would have been big news, but it's a fast changing world. So we're gonna try to figure out now what the people think about the impending potential shutdown. So everybody is lining up on the Democratic side, the Republican side, to try to pitch what might happen as the fault of the other side. Senator Patrick Leahy said Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the presidency. The government stays open if they want it to stay open, and it shuts down if they want it to shut down. It's time to stop kicking the can down the road and time to start negotiating in good faith. And you can find similar quotes, from all sides. I think it's kind of a good point that they do hold all of the reins of government power, and if they could corral their different factions in a line, they could do whatever the hell they want. Thankfully, they can't. But there's always a battle over this. So let's bring up this first poll and you're gonna see what the people think. So Trump and the Republicans in Congress has Democrats obviously largely think, almost 80% think it's their fault. Independents tend to fall in that direction as well. You'll be shocked to find out that the majority of Republicans think it's the Democrats' fault, although not as much. And so there's a little bit of room for reality to get involved with people's political opinions, as is so rarely the case. But there's another poll that I found really interesting. I would not have predicted it went this way. If we could bring up this next poll, what do people think is more important, avoiding a shutdown or continuing DACA? And by a fairly large margin, the majority of Americans say that avoiding a shutdown is more important, and that is disappointing.
Okay, so let's break this down further, because that poll will panic every Democrat in Washington, and they're probably in mid-buckle as we speak. So first of all, as John pointed out, who's gonna be blamed by a 48 to 28 overall for the whole country? 20-point margin, that's a giant margin. They're gonna blame the Republicans, not the Democrats. So Democrats, just hold your knees together for a little longer, stand up, stiffen the spine, okay? Their knees are gonna start to shake any second, okay?
Hold on to something.
Right, and then independents are critical, and they decided who was to blame for the previous government shutdowns, and they are 46 to 25, even larger, 21-point lead, saying that Republicans are at fault because they control the government. It's fairly obvious. Second of all, DACA is enormously popular, 70 to 80% depending on the poll you look, enormously popular. So the main thing that Trump and the Republicans are saying is, the Democrats are holding us up with unreasonable demands. All you need is one simple question. Why is a policy that has, let's take the lower number. Why is a policy that has a 70% approval rating for the whole country an unreasonable demand? Why is a policy that if you just put it up by itself as a bill right now would pass easily, even with Republicans voting for it? Why is that an unreasonable demand? So the Democrats have to actually stick to their guns and say it is a perfectly reasonable demand. Why are the Republicans willing to shut down the government just to make sure we don't have a policy that an overwhelming majority of Americans agree with? That's how it should be framed. But Democrats, they're gonna be like, oh my God, oh no, they're gonna blame us. That's basically my guess as to how it'll go.
I find it odd to taunt and belittle someone who's just a complete psychopath anyway. It's like, why are we taunting Trump and being like, having this big standoff with him? I don't think that he gives a shit about shutting down the government. He has rallied and campaigned on vitriolic hatred of immigration and immigrants. So I don't get that, although I disagree with you. I think that the Democrats are just using this as a bargaining chip to simply get Latino votes. I don't think that they really care about immigration. Again, back in Obama's presidency, Latinos forced them to the DREAM Act, forced DACA, and the same thing's happening now where you had sit-ins in these senators' offices begging them from Dreamers and DACA recipients saying, please, I mean, this is what has to be done now because our system's completely bought off, that we actually have to put our bodies in these offices and say, please stop in order to get anything moved. And again, these Democrats who want to claim that Trump is this authoritarian who's out of control, well, they seem to be lining up right next to him with war footing on North Korea and Iran, which I find a much more disastrous potentiality to nuclear war. And Democrats seem to be agreeing with him on that.
So, well, okay, then let's dive a little bit more into what the Democrats actually think. So look, if you ask me who's at fault if this government shuts down, it's a no-brainer. Both CHIP and DACA are overwhelmingly popular. I agree with Abby in that it's even a false argument. There's no actual disagreement This is just the Democrats going, oh golly gee, what could we do? We had to approve everything the Republicans wanted in order to get these two things, which are actually incredibly easy to get, right? So, but nonetheless, okay, but John, go ahead before I go to nonetheless.
Okay, nonetheless, I mean, one potential reason, so there's the blame if it shuts down, but then there's also how concerned is an individual about whether it shuts down. I mean, if your philosophy, your ideology, generally, the core of it is government's awful and I wanna kill it, shutting down the government doesn't sound that bad. If you have some idea, and we can disagree on the specifics, but some idea that government actually does some beneficial things, and if you look at the people who would be hurt during a government shutdown, they tend not to be the Koch brothers, then I can see why they'd be a little bit more scared. I still want them to stand strong, but they could be a little bit more scared even if you're not worried about blame.
So now, look, I know that there are legitimate great progressives like Jamie Raskin who are concerned about that, and the government workers that would, then not have a job for that period of time. And there's plenty of real things, veterans who are not getting disability benefits. There are real things to be concerned about. And I think there are some Democrats who care a lot about that. There's also Democrats whose main concern is my donors don't want any instability in the markets. All my donors are millionaires and they all have their money in the stock market. If there's a government shutdown, the stock market goes down and then they kick my ass. So DACA, whatever, okay, I demand to have oxygen in America. I don't know, I gotta come up with some sort of false demand, right? Okay, they gave me oxygen, fine. I approve of everything the Republicans want. Donors, are you happy? The markets are happy, right? Markets are happy.
Trump just tweeted he's not actually gonna give you oxygen, sorry. Republicans are in an uproar.
We don't even get that.
Yeah, and by the way, he has sucked all the oxygen out of the room, so there is some truth to that. All right, now, I do like how Pod Save America has put the two camps of Democrats, anyway, going to my nonetheless, right? So Pod Save America, they're funny, fun, smart folks. They're not radicals, okay? They're former Obama guys, so they're not that tough on Democrats if you ask me. But even they're like, some of you are considering not fighting for DACA? At 70% approval rating, some of it. So they've put it into two camps. I like the camps that they created, that's why I'm quoting it. One is Fight Club, so the Democrats who are saying, yeah, of course, we gotta at least get the DREAM Act for God's sake. Otherwise, by the way, one part of that is legitimate because we gotta fight for those people and we're progressives. The other side is, otherwise we won't get their votes in 2018, right? Oh, we need the Latino base, identity politics, etc. So let's keep it real, that's part of it. Again, good people and some cynical people, okay? But that's the Fight Club, those are the good guys, right? Then there's the Waffle House. Their words, I like it, okay? Democrats who are like, who cares? Maybe we don't even need the DREAM Act. The markets, right? So they have all their reasoning is pathetic. They say, well, I mean, we just give Trump a wall or something, and we don't necessarily. I mean, do we really need the DREAM? No, it's okay. We'll get the DREAM Act later.
Yeah, that works.
But wait a minute, you'll have lost all of your leverage.
Why would you get it later?
But we don't want it. They literally are worried about making Trump angry. They're like, but if you make Trump angry, then he might not want to compromise on the DREAM Act when we give him funding for the wall.
Yeah, because he's a rational person.
Oh my God.
Can I try to reassure some of those Waffle House Democrats then? And if the concern is that the markets would react negatively, I'm not an expert on economics or anything, you wouldn't want to listen to me, but let's turn to a genius who had previously said during the last government shutdown, stocks rose yesterday during the first day of government shutdown. Markets like being left alone for a day, and he's a genius. So I don't think you need to worry, Waffle House Democrats.
John, I'd like to do a small correction there. He's a very stable genius. Okay, let's just keep it real. ShopTYT.com.
I think really quickly, I just wanted to say, what about the TPS for Haitians and El Salvadorians? Because we're only talking about children, and of course, while they are the most vulnerable and the most sympathetic, we should also be fighting just as hard for the people who've lived here that are from these other countries. Granting full amnesty is not unheard of. Reagan did it when he was leaving. So I think that full amnesty and nothing less is my position. And until I see someone in office fighting for that, well.
Yeah. Look, it's last thing, because it's a good point. What we originally said is, and the Waffle House guys say, well, this makes it an all or nothing, and then Trump's gonna wanna win and not lose, and so we're banging him up against the wall. Well, we knew that, you dumbass checker players, right? That's why we told you, what, over a month ago, maybe we said, ask for 3 things. Ask for the DREAM Act, ask for net neutrality, ask to protect Social Security and Medicare, right? Those are all poll above 60%. So, and then by the way, they took Chip hostage. So, okay, ask for 4 things, and then it'll seem like a compromise when you get 2 or 3 of them. But Democrats, being the worst negotiators on purpose in the world, go, okay, we'll only ask for 1 thing. Oh no, some of us are scared, we won't even get that. Look, either they're complicit or they're really the worst negotiator. No negotiator thought, hey, you know what? I would like more so that I can negotiate to a midpoint. That never occurred to them. They're United States senators.
They need a stable genius on their side.
Yeah, they're the worst. And then they wonder, why are people frustrated with us? If you can't at least get Chip, which just got taken hostage a couple of months ago, it was never in dispute. It's enormously popular. It's children's health, for God's sake, right? And you can't get DREAM Act, which has 70 to 80% approval. And then you give the Republicans everything else, their whole entire budget. You can't do that, you are the worst. And then you wonder why people don't want to come out and vote for you. What you just watched was one of the videos that we do today, but we actually do a whole 2-hour show every single day. It's a podcast, you could watch it in video or listen to it as audio. You can download it, you can stream it, and you get it completely ad-free if you could become a member of the Young Turks. tytnetwork.com/join.